1800s, when the Italian Federico Caprilli introduced the modern forward position, enabling the horse to jump with far greater ease. Jumping competitions had been going on for some 50 years by then. Known as leaping contests, they often involved only one fence, but impressive heights were sometimes scaled. The American thoroughbred Heatherbloom is seen here topping 8 foot 3 inches with Dick Donnelly in 1903. Women were not barred from the early competitions, although they were somewhat handicapped by the side saddle seat, still expected of them in those days. Eventually it became clear that a series of varied fences had far greater appeal for riders and spectators alike. Jumping competitions began to flourish, but required significantly less skill and sophistication than the competitions of today.
The championship meeting of the British Showjumping Association brought hundreds of visitors from the Dales and Shires to London's White City. Cafe cameramen were at the championships, and some of the jumps are shown in slow motion. High spot of the day was the big jumper class, in spite of a few bad jumps and a cropper or two. 10 massive and tricky jumps make up the full course, and only a perfect combination of horse and rider stands a chance. Prize, £100, a cup, and the blue rosette that means the Championship of Britain.
The early courses consisted of different fences spaced around the arena, and little attention was paid to anything but the height and width of the fences. Gradually, however, the importance of course design began to emerge. Today's course designers are recognized as masters in the use of awkward distances between fences, testing angles, even strange colors, or the unevenness of the ground.
I have observed that the horse can make a 7 and 8 feet stride between fences if gradually is trained for that. On the other hand, normally I would say that they are making 12 feet. The rider has to show how much control he has with his animal and how much cooperating the horse with the rider.
Building show jumping courses has become both an art and a science. The modern course designer poses an examination for the horse and rider and challenges them to show that they can play all the shots, that they can lengthen stride, shorten stride, make difficult turns, and so forth. And he really demands, I think, of the winner of a great title that he has demonstrated that he's a complete horseman and that the horse is a complete horse. Horses can readily be trained to jump fences entirely off their own judgment, with the rider being only a passenger. The show jumper can never be ridden that way because of the way in which courses are built.
When the riders inspect a course, it is the first and last time they see it before the competition, and there is much to be considered.
We have to anticipate a little bit how things may look to the horse. We have to be aware of where the sun is, of things that may look peculiar to the horse as he approaches the fence.
When I walk the course, I'm just trying to get a basic feel for how my horse's stride will fit the course, what distance problems are, what will be easy for my horse, what will be hard. The horse could stumble, the horse could take too much time in the air, and it'll make the distance change completely. So at that point, you have to make a quick decision.
Don't watch me, because I'm definitely not doing
you're
fast.
right, Chef. Two of them both down. They better have a pretty good stride to get there in 5.
You can't build the same course exactly twice in a row, even if you attempt to do so. The position of the fences will always be a foot out or something like that, and the materials are always varying also. The real challenge to the course builder is to be able to separate the best riders in the competition from each other without burying those who are at the other end of the scale. The ways in which the designer accomplishes this are very often difficult to see from the stands. The depth of the cup that supports the pole can vary between, say, 1 3/4 inches or less than 1 inch. And the very shallow cups, of course, permit poles to fall down very readily. The great course designers are constantly surprising you
Another great course designer is Arno Gego, who built the courses for all the competitions at the last World Championships.
In the first two competitions, I do less complicated things than in the third competition, where you have the top 20. I like very much the creative side of course design. I like very much to play with the colors, with the material, to play with the ground. It's a little bit going up and down. Riders sometimes do not observe it. Each big course for me is like a birth of a new baby. It's growing, it needs 9 months, and after the 9 months the baby is coming out. You see some pain in the first moment, and you have the first rider, he has 4 faults, and you are happy. Baby is there, is good. Yeah.
Earlier competitions at the World Championships here in Aachen have resulted in the team gold for the Americans, and only the finals for the individual championship are still to come. This is a fascinating competition in which the 4 leading riders up to now start anew with 0 scores and perform a sort of round robin. First they jump their own horse, and then each of the other 3 horses belonging to the other riders. The finalists this time are Conrad Homfeld from the United States, Nick Skelton from Great Britain, Pierre Durand from France, who was the clear winner of the qualifying competitions, and for the first time, a woman, Gail Greenough from Canada.
Conrad Homfeld is a complex personality and really a riding genius because he can combine his extraordinary natural talent with brilliant technique, and thus he has the ability to ride about anything on 4 legs. Conrad's always liked difficult horses, and this beautiful Trakehner stallion, Abdullah, is one of his real triumphs. Abdullah always was impressive, but the temperament sometimes let him down before Conrad got him. Now they've got 2 Olympic medals and a World Cup title together, and that shows the quality of their partnership. Nick Skelton is a professional, of course, and perhaps not quite as stylish a rider as Conrad, but the quality of his talent is absolutely as high, and nobody in the world has a better feeling for the horse's stride or a keener sense of strategy. Nick has started to ride the Dutch-bred Apollo, who is a really strong, solid kind of horse. But Apollo gets bored with things every now and then and can become a bit strong and a bit careless. Even so, Nick has won the Grand Prix of Aachen with him already, so they clearly get along together. The other riders are not quite so sure how they're going to get along. Pierre Durand of France is a lawyer by profession and not a full-time show jumper at all, nor is he someone who has created a whole bunch of legendary performances with different horses. But with Japelou, he has a relationship of such complete sympathy and mutual understanding that their very best performances recently have been absolutely unforgettable. Little Japelou is just like a rubber ball because he does everything through pure bounce and spring. But he has a lot of temperament, and although everybody is looking forward to riding him, who knows how so unusual a little horse will go for someone else. The completely unknown quantity in the finals for most Europeans is Gail Greenough, because she's riding in Europe for the first time. As a young rider, she showed a lot of spunk and a completely disarming amount of charm, along with a lot of natural ability. In Mr. T, she has a very talented horse who is apparently quite straightforward temperamentally, but before she got him, he'd attracted very little attention, so she must have had something to do with his creation. Gail and Mr. T are definitely the outsiders in this group because no woman has ever qualified for the Final 4 since the separate Ladies' World Championship was abandoned. So it's a big order, even for a very spunky girl.
I think that Pierre Durand should deserve to be world champion right now. I think the competition today is not in his favor. He was for sure the clear winner of the qualifying competitions. Now they all go in equal today.
In my situation, then I think now I've got another chance to have a go at being world champion. It's working in my favor now.
This, to me, is sort of a cheap theatrical trick. This last part, in my opinion, it's now thrown up to the gods. It could go any way.
A lot of people decry the whole thing, yet no one comes up with a better formula. The only person I believe could have problems would be Gail Greenough. She's a girl and hasn't got the power of the 2 men.
I think maybe the more experience you have, the more you think about it, and the more you try and ride the other horses. Maybe it might work to my advantage that I don't have the experience. I'm just going to get on, I'm just going to trust my instincts to take over, and hopefully that's going to carry me through.
I have a job and I cannot ride every day. And I ride only 2 or 3 horses in my stable. And I'm not accustomed to ride many horses.
Japelou is a fantastic horse. He looks hot, but the very nicest kind of hot. Gail Greenough's horse looks pretty straightforward. He looks like he might be a little bit strong, but again, not a complex personality.
Japelou, like I say, I think he's going to be good with anybody. And Mr. T, well, he looks easy enough.
Abdullah, I think I'm a little lucky. I've drawn him second, so I ride him immediately after Conrad does, which I think will help.
I think it all depends who you follow, too. I mean, if they've had a bad ride with one jockey, then they've probably still got a little bit of memory there, and then, you know, it could go wrong for you.
The horse that concerns me the most is Apollo. Nick is such an artist, and it's very hard to improve on his act.
My most concern is with Apollo, because I think he takes a great deal of strength, and that's something I don't really have compared to the male riders. But I'll just pull under the reins and pull them and hope for the best.
I am afraid by Apollo, the horse of Nick Skelton.
Biggest problem is probably my own, trying to ride my own clear.
Whatever the merits of this method of selecting a world champion, no one can dispute that it's a tremendous challenge for the riders, who must adapt almost instantly to 3 unfamiliar horses.
I hope you win.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Yeah, I think it'll be a tough competition between all 4 riders.
The pressure really is not on me, really, at all. I'm the first female to make it to the World Championships, and I believe I'm the first Canadian. I don't think that the pressure's on me. I think the pressure's on the men.
The first round, in which each rider rides his own horse. Although the course is of moderate size, there is quite a tricky combination. A treble as the very last fence. Conrad and Abdullah are the first to go. Clear so far, they approach the end of the course. A fluent, clear round. Nick and Apollo come next. Another trouble-free performance. Pierre and Japelou have 1 fence down already. And now another, for a disappointing 8 faults. Gail and Mr. T are the last in this round. And they have no problems. This leaves 3 riders with no faults after the first round. Now for the interesting part of the competition. Each rider has 2 minutes in which to get used to the new horse in the warm-up arena. During this time, they may jump 2 practice fences. Conrad, first to go, riding Nick's Apollo, has an early fence down. But no further problems. Nick follows on Pierre's Japelou. Not the smoothest of rounds, but he gets away with it and is clear. Pierre, however, finds Gale's Mr. T incomprehensible and knocks up 12 faults. His total of 20 really puts him out of the running, only halfway through the competition. Gale must now ride Conrad's stallion, Abdullah, an intimidating mount for a small girl. She makes a very different picture in the saddle from Conrad. But it doesn't seem to affect Abdullah, who goes clear again. Gale and Nick now have 2 faultless rounds each, as we come to the 3rd round. The first pair, Conrad and Japalou, set off. They seem to be going well. But then they have a fence down to give Conrad a total of 8 faults after 3 rounds. Nick has thus become the definite favourite as he starts his round with Mr. T, who has not really given him cause for worry. This disastrous and unexpected event turns things entirely around. The pressure suddenly switches to Gale, who must now ride Apollo, her greatest worry.
Apollo's going to take care of her.
Despite, or perhaps because of, Gale's lightweight and gentle approach, Apollo doesn't look too difficult. And amazingly, she jumps a 3rd clear round to take a 2-fence lead.
Le prompteur, clear round, sans faute.
The crowd are wild with excitement. There's only 1 round to go, but nothing can be certain. Conrad is first with Mr. T. The horse is settled down again, and he jumps a beautiful clear round to end on 8 faults. Nick, stopped with Mr. T, has dashed his hopes. But he also jumps clear with Abdullah. Gale is the last to go. Can she jump a 4th clear round on Japalou, with his unpredictable temperament? In fact, she can afford to have 1 fence down, but only 1, if she is to take the title of world champion on her first international trip.
Where's my coach? I'm gonna cry.
Einzelwertung den Preis der Stadt Aachen. Sieger und Goldmedaille. Georg winner Canada mit Mr. T.
History has been made. The world champion is a woman. A brilliant triumph.